Hello and welcome to the Our Foundations podcast. My name is Joshua, your host, and today's episode is not a regular episode. I am actually going out of town. I'm not going to be here for this week or next week as far as releasing new episodes is concerned, but I would like your input on what to approach next, in what order, and to what degree. So coming up, I guess just to give a little recap of where we are, we're in Season 4, doing an overview of the general topics that have been covered throughout the entirety of this podcast, bringing it all up to date, connecting all the dots, and looking at it all from a macro perspective. We've made our way all the way up into Season 3. And so what's next is talking about the parallel between the early church, the original church, and modern-day agorism, basically a group that did not have very positive feelings about the state or about the culture or about institutional religion, but instead of trying to rebel and fight and change or work from the inside, anything like that, instead of those things, they built their own systems and went that route, which would be the route of agorism for a secular modern-day example. So that is one episode probably. There's also another episode on the natural order of things. So if we break things down all the way down to the very basics of what is the natural order, if we want to live in a way that is in line with the natural order, if we want to do things in a natural way, and that is in contradiction to the age that we are getting into, the age of science, where it's all about manipulating and changing the natural order, then we need to kind of understand what the natural order is. So I've got a whole framework for the natural order as such. That will be another episode. Then I've got an episode on secular religion. These would include scientism and the Church of Woke, as well as I forget what the last one is. Oh, statism. And all three of these are at least the most relevant examples. So we'll do a whole episode on those and on secular religion as a whole and what its place is, especially given the age that we are getting into. And then we've got an episode on various frameworks for what technocracy looks like. So I use the illusions of Plato's Republic, Brave New World, the Panopticon, 1984, and a few others, The Prince, I forget if there's any others, but all of those, and I build a framework out for what does technocracy look like from a fairly philosophical perspective, but also from a very practical perspective. What is this going to look like for me, for an individual living under the current conditions in the current and coming age? What is this going to look like for me, and why is it going to look that way? So that'd be the more philosophical aspect. And so I've got an episode to do on that, and that should bring us up to date. That should be the end of Season 4, brings us up to date on all of this content, all of these topics, and I might do one as well on me as a whole, because in one of these time frames, I forget when it was, I think it was this interim period that I just got done covering, I did a few episodes on things I'm involved with homesteading and cryptocurrency, and done some on a local agorist group and all kinds of stuff like that. So I might do one on those topics as well, but that should be it. So, with that being said, if you have a preference on what to hear first out of all of that, if you have a preference on what things that you are more excited about than others, and I can dedicate more time to those than the other things, then please reach out, let me know. ourfoundations@protonmail.com would be the best way to do so, to email me, but you can also send a message on Twitter or whatever other way you want to do so. I think you can do it on Patreon and Subscribestar, as well as through the website itself. But please do so. Other than that, I will leave it there. So now you do have an idea of where we're going, what's coming up next, the topics that we'll be covering, and I am leaving it open for you to give some input in how I do that. I will weigh the input of financial supporters the heaviest, so especially if you are on Patreon or Subscribestar, please do reach out on there. Let me know what you think, and I will gather that together and come back to you here in roughly 2 weeks. So with that, I just want to say thank you very much for your support. thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking through this, even though I might have 2 weeks off. This is actually the very first time in about 3 or 4 years that I've ever done this. So please bear with me. I'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll get an episode out then. So you'll basically just not have an episode released next week, and then we'll be back on track. So that is the plan. Please feel free to reach out. Please do reach out. And until next time, I'm out. Peace.
This has been our Foundations podcast. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.